Hello everyone, hope you all had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, and I hope you're all having a Happy New Year in 2015. And in this video I'm going to show you the train-related things I got for Christmas of 2014. So, to start things off, well, you're looking at two of them right here, with the first one being this nice Pennsylvania Railroad hat. It's got the Keystone Pennsy emblem on it. And I also have this nice sweatshirt here, this Amtrak sweatshirt. It's got the 4 P-42 DC Genesis Heritage units, starting from Phase 1 over here, and goes all the way to Phase 4 over here. And at the very end is a Phase 5 Amtrak P-42 DC Genesis, which is the common type of unit that can be seen all across the United States wherever Amtrak serves. So it gives you a good range from Phase 1 to Phase 5 for the P-42 DC Genesis locomotive. It also has the two Amtrak logos here with the pointless arrow and the triple striped logo as well. So very nice railroad-related clothing that I got for Christmas of 2014. And now I'll show you some other train-related things that I got. This one right here is a Union Pacific FP7 diesel locomotive in N scale. This is actually a dummy locomotive. It's a display piece, really. As you can see, it's got a railroad track kind of plaque to it, and the name of the locomotive is on here as well, as you can see. But you could actually unscrew the screw that's on the bottom here that holds the locomotive to this plaque, and you could put it onto an N-scale piece of track, and like in a siding or something like that, if you want to have an extra locomotive there. But this is a dummy locomotive. It's just a display piece primarily, but still it's got very nice detail for a display piece. And well, there is a little defect right there. It's not so bad, it's just that the sticker is peeling off slightly. Not too bad though. Very fine coloring and painting on the locomotive nonetheless. So there's that. And another thing I got is this DVD from Pentrex called Amtrak Across America. It's a combo DVD. It has Amtrak Across America 25th anniversary, which shows Amtrak from 1971 to 1996. And it has a whole bunch of clips that Pentrex has made on various routes across the Amtrak system. And the other half of this DVD also includes Amtrak's X2000 demonstration, which shows the X2000, the Swedish-built high-speed train, when it was in the United States to be tested during the 1990s. There's also some footage of the X2000 in Sweden that's shown on this DVD as well. It's a really good DVD, especially if you're an Amtrak fan. I just wish it was a little longer, though, for the 25th anniversary combo. That's pretty much the only thing I have to say about it that's not positive. It's just that it's a half-hour long, and yet they just crammed in a whole bunch of stuff to make it within a half hour. It probably would have been better if they just took like all the Amtrak clips that they've made from other DVDs and just put them into this one to make a big, long presentation. But other than that, it's actually a very good DVD, and if you can get it on sale, then it's definitely a good deal. And especially if you're an Amtrak fan, you'll also like it. Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention about this is that for some reason it doesn't have any previews on it. Most Pentrex DVDs that I have, and videos as well, have previews, but this one doesn't. So, yeah, there's no previews on it either. But, you know, you could always go on YouTube and check out Pentrex to see the previews there if you want to. But, other than that, this is a great DVD from Pentrex, and in my opinion, I think they make the best train-related video productions that you can get on DVD or videotape. So, that's what I got in this section of the video. Now, we'll move on to the train simulation part of the video, showing you the add-ons that I got for Train Simulator 2015, and at the end of the video, the very end of the video, I will show you the mystery diesel locomotive that I got for Christmas and I will show that to you very soon. So stay tuned and we'll get there. So now we're going to move on to the Train Simulator 2015 part of the video, where I will show you the downloadable content that I got for Christmas of 2014 for Train Simulator 2015. So here we go to that section. Okay, so we're now in the Train Simulator 2015 part of the post-Christmas update video, and in this part of the video I'll show you the Train Simulator 2015 DLC that I got for Christmas of 2014. So the first one that we're looking at here is the Miami to West Palm Beach route by Dovetail Games. This includes the 70-mile route from Miami's Central Station to the Manjonia Park Station in Florida. And it also includes Amtrak GE P42 DC Genesis diesel locomotives, crew and non-crew versions of them. It also includes CSX GE-8 diesel locomotives, crew and non-crew versions of them as well. It includes Amtrak Heritage baggage cars, Amtrak Amfleet 2 coaches, Amtrak Amfleet 2 cafe cars, Amtrak Heritage dining cars, Amtrak Viewliner cars, CSX 50-foot box cars, gray 60-foot double-door box cars, red 2-bay covered hoppers, loaded and unloaded versions, red 3-bay covered hoppers, loaded and unloaded versions, gray stone hoppers, loaded and unloaded versions, black gondolas, loaded and unloaded versions, CSX refrigerator cars, black tank cars, loaded and unloaded versions, green trash hoppers, loaded and unloaded versions, 8 scenarios, and several new scenery objects and assets, as well as many more recycled from previous Dovetail Games routes. Now we move on to the pros, advantages, and strengths of this DLC. The rails are T-rail, just like in real life. The included locomotives have flashing ditch lights. All the hoses on the passenger cars connect when coupled to each other. The passenger cars have working marker lights that turn on and off on the last car when the locomotive's headlights are turned on. The freight cars have working end-of-train device lights that appear on the last car when the locomotive's headlights are turned on. The alerter works on the Genesis diesels. When going into dynamic brake mode on the combined power handle for the Genesis diesels, there's a pause when in setup before increasing dynamic braking. The Amfleet coaches have a passenger car interior view. This route features 2 railroads and not just one in its standard package, that being Amtrak and CSX. Most of the controls on the locomotives animate, and they animate properly. The Dash 8s have the latest braking physics, where they will apply and release slower, but this can be adjusted with a key command too. With the included train sets for this route, it's possible to make a complete CSX freight train, as well as a complete Amtrak Silver Meteor train, or a complete Amtrak Silver Star train. This route also has smooth and super elevated curves. There are whistle posts in front of most railroad crossings, and some of these whistle posts are modified for quiet zones. The included locomotives have the TSX features such as headlights that cast light and rain on the windows. When in the Amfleet's interior view while it rains, rain can be seen on the windows. This route goes above and beyond the advertised by not just having the section from Miami's Hialeah Yard West Palm Beach station, but it also goes as far south as the Miami Central station and as far north as the Manjonia Park station. The Miami Metro Rail elevated tracks are included in Miami, but they're only for show. They don't go anywhere in the game. All of the passenger cars and freight cars included have animated roller bearings, except for the Viewliner passenger cars and the tank cars for some strange reason. Station pedestrians look appropriate to the route's location, and they have the latest animations such as drinking coffee or checking their cell phones. All the locomotives and cars have customizable numbers, and the Genesis diesels have the locomotive number appear in the cab as well. The included locomotives have notched combined power handles. There are traffic trains and quick drive scenarios, and there are achievements included. Now we move on to the cons, goofs, and nitpicks section of this DLC. The ties are not 3D, they're flat and painted onto the ballast. The alerter doesn't work on the Dash 8s. The Dash 8s don't have the realistic dynamic braking effects, meaning there's no pause when going from setup to dynamic braking. The ditch lights are too far apart to look realistic on the Dash 8s. The headlights aren't dimmable on the included locomotives. Lots of undercarriage detail is missing on the Dash 8s. The clickety-clack sounds on the Amfleets don't sound prototypical for Amfleets. The M Fleet 1s included with the 2 Northeast Corridor routes, Trains vs. Zombies 2, and the Amtrak HHP8 DLC have more realistic clickety-clack sounds for Am Fleets. The Am Fleet 2 coaches have the same interior view as the Am Fleet 1 coaches included in other DLC, which isn't prototypical for real Am Fleet 2s. The Viewliner's trucks don't pivot properly. The Genesis diesels lack external detail from the older versions included with the Amtrak Empire DLC. The snowplow, or if you're from Florida, you might call this a gator plow, is too wide to be realistic on the Genesis diesel locomotives. The sounds are not prototypical on the Genesis diesel locomotives. Even the slightly older Metro North Genesis diesels from Dovetail Games have more realistic sounds for the Genesis diesels overall for that whole entire class. The Dash 8s have the same sound set as the Dash 9s from the Dash 9 DLC and Donner Pass. The air hoses are always disconnected on the freight cars. The braking and acceleration physics on the Genesis diesels feel off, especially when compared to the physics of the Metro North Genesis diesels. When sounding the horn on the Genesis diesels, it doesn't trigger the bell to ring. Some trackside scenery isn't realistic, such as having California freeway signs on this route that actually takes place in Florida. There are no highly urban sound effects included with this route. There are no Tri-Rail trains included in the route standard package, and that's a shame because Tri-Rail is the commuter train service on this line in real life, and their trains are very common on this line every day, and they stop at more of the stations on this line than Amtrak. The mostly parallel Florida East Coast line from Miami to West Palm Beach isn't included except for a short stretch where it intersects in Miami. This is a shame because this route can't spawn any Florida East Coast DLC. Although if Dovetail Games had no choice but to pick one of the routes from Miami to West Palm Beach, then the ex-Seaboard section, now Amtrak, CSX, and Tri-Rail section, is a better choice from a DLC point of view since it could spawn more DLC from more railroads past or present. And this is the ex-Seaboard route that Dovetail Games has made. Alright, so that's all I've got to say for now about this DLC. Now we'll move on to the next DLC that I got for Christmas of 2014 for Train Simulator 2015. Okay, so the next DLC that I got for Christmas of 2014 for Train Simulator 2015 is the South London Network. This DLC includes the lines between London Victoria Station, London Bridge Station, and South Croydon. It also includes Southern Class 456 EMU cars, Southeastern Class 375 Electrostar EMU cars, several new scenery objects and assets, as well as many more recycled from previous Dovetail game routes, as well as 7 scenarios. Now we move on to the pros, advantages, and strengths of this DLC. This route features 2 railways and not just one in its standard package, Southern and Southeastern. Not only do the EMU cars have customizable numbers, they also have customizable destination boards with the names of stations along the route. Working AWS system is included on the EMU cars, and the alarm will go off even when moving the reverser for the first time in a scenario. The EMU cars have the TSX effects such as headlights that light up the surrounding environment and rain on the windows in the cab interior views. There's graffiti on walls and buildings on this route, and there's also trackside garbage, both of which add the feel of being in and around a big city. Super elevated curves are included. A second horn or whistle sound can be activated by pressing the B button on the keyboard. Lots of buildings light up at night. Both EMU car sets have passenger interior views. Rain and snow don't fall through the tunnels and enclosed stations such as London Victoria Station. This route has the highly urban sound effects such as the ambient sounds of emergency vehicles and taxis. Most of the controls in the cabs of these EMU cars that are included with the route animate, and they animate properly. Achievements are also included. And although this route is not an extension for Dovetail Games' London to Brighton route and doesn't require London to Brighton in order to play it, there's a merger route of this route and London to Brighton available for free for players who have both of these routes, and it's available to download on Steam Workshop. Now we move on to the cons, goofs, and nitpicks of this DLC. The passenger car view for the Electrostars doesn't have any glass in the window panes, which in turn means that rain and snow won't accumulate on the windows in the passenger interior view. Only a short blast can be sounded on the horns for the EMU cars, except for the Electrostar's whistle, which is synchronized to the player's command. There's no animation for the second horn or whistle sound for both of the EMU car sets. It will only work if you press the B button or the bell icon on the HUD. Some of the trees and buildings are 2D. The route has MSTS, Microsoft Train Simulator style, track textures with the square rails and flat painted on sleepers, or ties as we would call them in the United States, instead of track textures with T-rails and 3D sleepers, or ties. There are no traffic trains and quick drive scenarios, and it's impossible to earn the driving achievements related to the Class 456. So that's all I have to say about this DLC. Now we'll move on to the next DLC that I got for Christmas of 2014 for Train Simulator 2015. Okay, so now we're looking at the next DLC that I got for Christmas of 2014 for Train Simulator 2015. This is the LNER Wartime Black Flying Scotsman. This includes the LNER Flying Scotsman steam locomotive in Wartime Black with number 103 on one side and number 502 on the other. It also includes the Flying Scotsman steam locomotive in LNER Wartime Black with 103 on both sides, and also includes the version of Flying Scotsman in Wartime Black with 502 on both sides. And of course, you also get the LNER Wartime Black corridor tender to go with the locomotive. Also included are 4 types of British Railways Mach 1 coaches in maroon, which include first class, second class, brake, and guard coaches. And there are also 3 scenarios included for the London to Brighton route. Now we move on to the pros, advantages, and strengths of this DLC. The locomotive has the TSX effects such as headlights that light up the surrounding environment and rain on the windows in the cab interior view. The locomotive has firebox glow when the firebox doors open. There's visible and animated wheel slip depending on load, throttle settings, and reverser settings. The first class Mach 1 coaches have an interior view, and they have the rain on the windows effect when it's raining or snowing. The steam particle effects on the locomotive are all synchronized, such as the whistle, safety valves, and cylinder cocks. This locomotive also has synchronized puffing smoke. When using the sander, sand will actually squirt onto the tracks when looking at the locomotive from an external view. When water is added into the boiler, it can be seen coming through the injector pipes below the footplate. Most of the controls animate in the cab, and they animate properly. A tail lamp is added to the last Mach 1 coach when the headlights are turned on. Now we move on to the cons, goofs, and nitpicks of this DLC. There's no damper glow or ashpan glow. The damper lever and water valves don't animate in the cab interior view. There are no externally animated controls when looking at the cab from an external view. When the cylinder cocks are open, the steam hissing sound is heard when the throttle is closed. The realistic throttle physics, where there's a delayed reaction when using the throttle, are not included on this locomotive. The chuffing isn't synchronized to the wheels during wheel slip. And there are no achievements included, although this was released before Dovetail Games implemented achievements for Train Simulator DLC. So that's all I have to say for now about this DLC. Now we move on to the next DLC that I got for Christmas of 2014 for Train Simulator 2015. So now we're looking at the next DLC that I got for Christmas of 2014 for Train Simulator 2015, and that is the first Capital Connect Class 319 EMU car set. This includes the entire Class 319 EMU car set, 2 tutorials on London to Brighton, and 2 scenarios for London to Brighton. Now we move on to the pros, advantages, and strengths of this DLC. Not only do these EMU cars have customizable numbers, they also have customizable destination boards with the names of stations along the routes this train serves. There's a working AWS system for this EMU car set, and the alarm will even go off when moving the reverser for the first time in a scenario. The EMU cars have the TSX effects, such as headlights that light up the surrounding environment and rain on the windows in the cab interior view. Achievements are also included. A second horn sound can be activated by pressing the B button. These EMU cars have a passenger interior view, and water will trickle down the windows when it rains or snows. Most of the controls animate, and they animate properly in the cab interior view, and even the cab fan can be turned on or off. And also the cab windows can be opened. Now we move on to the cons, goofs, and nitpicks section. Only a short blast can be sounded on the horns for these EMU cars. And there's no animation for the second horn sound for these EMU cars. It will only work by pressing the B button on the keyboard or pressing the bell icon on the HUD. So that's all I have to say about this DLC. And now we move on to the last DLC that I got for Train Simulator 2015 for Christmas of 2014. So now, this is the final DLC for Train Simulator 2015 that I got for Christmas of 2014 that we're looking at, and that is the CSX GE ES44AC Diesel Locomotive DLC. This DLC is available on Steam Marketplace. DLC includes the CSX GE ES44ACs in the CSX YN3 paint scheme and the YN3B paint scheme. Now we move on to the pros, advantages, and strengths of this DLC. The locomotive has TSX effects such as headlights that light up the surrounding environment and rain on the windows in the cab interior view. The air hoses connect when coupled up to another locomotive or car. The computer screens show some, but not all, locomotive information with both digital and analog readouts. And there are customizable numbers on both versions of these ES44ACs. Now we move on to the cons, goofs, and nitpicks section. The alerter doesn't work. The font on the sides of the cab is wrong for CSX. These locomotives don't have the latest braking physics. These locomotives don't have the realistic dynamic braking effects, meaning that there's no pause when going from setup to dynamic braking. And also, there are no non-crew versions of these locomotives. So that's all I have to say for this DLC, and that's my take on all the DLC that I got for Christmas of 2014 for Train Simulator 2015. So now we'll move on to the model train segment of this video, where I'll show you the model train stuff that I got for Christmas of 2014. Okay, so now we're in the model train segment of the post-Christmas update video. So the first thing that we're looking at here is this pair of containers by Athearn. These are, well, obviously not in real life. They're 48-foot containers, and that is scaled down to HO, of course. So they're not literally 48 feet long, of course. It's just that they're made to represent 48-foot long containers. And they're just plain white, no logos on them. I'm fine with that. That's fine with me. I can use my imagination on what company these containers came from. So I'm fine with them just being in a plain solid color like white, for example. That's fine with me. One cool thing about these containers is that, hear that sound? It's my thumb rubbing over the rivets. Yep, the rivets are actually detailed onto the container. That's really cool that they're not just painted on, they're actually molded on, which is really cool. Unfortunately, though, it does not have opening doors. These containers don't have opening doors at this end. That's where the doors are. But they're really cool, and unfortunately I don't have a flat car yet, a container flat car to put these onto. But I could always use them as trackside scenery for now. That's fine. Now I'll show you what else I got that was model train related. So I'll just move these containers out of the way. Nice and easy. Nice, slow, and easy. Okay. There we go. I think that should do it. Okay, so the next item that we're looking at here, that's model train related, that I got for Christmas of 2014, is this BNSF 60-foot boxcar by Athearn. Now, the detail on this is very cool, very good, It's got the metal trucks. It comes with McHenry couplers, and all the detailing is there, like the ribs on the side, and the logo is accurate for BNSF. And now, unfortunately, I had a slightly defective model here, and that is when I got it out of the box, one of the couplers at the end was broken, so I had to replace it with a Katy coupler, and it's at this end right here. There's a Katy coupler right there, and it comes with McHenry couplers. Now the other end, the McHenry coupler is still there, so right on this end right here, that's where the McHenry coupler is. So unfortunately, I had to swap it out at one end with a Katy coupler instead of a McHenry coupler for now. But McHenry couplers and Katy couplers are compatible when you're using them in the same train, so there's no problem with that. It's just that cosmetically it looks a little weird. At one end you have a coupler that's wide and a coupler that's narrow, but yet they work fine together, and it's compatible and all that, so it's not a big deal, not a big issue for now. But I do hope to get more McHenry couplers. I do hope to get a set of them and just swap out the Katy coupler with a new McHenry coupler. And one other downside about this car is, and this is not a defect, it comes standard with it, is that the doors don't open. And this is a downside for sure, because Athearn used to have opening doors on their boxcars, but now they don't do that anymore, which is quite a shame. And I believe that all model train companies that make boxcars should have opening doors on them, because really that's what boxcars do. They have doors, and they open and close, and then you can load stuff into them if you want, or unload stuff if you want to, but the doors are just constantly closed on this model, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately. I wish they would open, but just have to deal with them being closed all the time. But nonetheless, though, the detail is really good. The detail that's put onto it, all the ribs and the posts there, and the lettering is all accurate and everything like that. So I'm overall happy with it. I'm glad that I have it now. And also, this is also my first BNSF freight car, come to think of it, so that's cool too. Now we'll move on to what you've all been waiting for, probably, and that is the mystery diesel locomotive, the diesel locomotive that I got for Christmas of 2014. So here we go. There it is. It is the Wabash Heritage Unit from MTH in their HO line. This is an SD70 ACE diesel locomotive. Yeah, I know I have, this is like my 7th one now, and I know for like the last, I think it was the last 3 years, since Christmas of 2011, I've been getting SD70 ACEs. But this is another Heritage unit, and that's what makes it kind of special, is that it's the unique Wabash Heritage unit, and it's a very nice paint scheme. MTH did a great job on the paint scheme, and it also has the electronic bell sound, which is appropriate and accurate to this locomotive, and it has the electronic bell modeled onto the locomotive as well, which is really cool. And I have the New York Central Heritage unit and the Penn Central Heritage unit. Those are my other two Norfolk Southern Heritage units for now. And what they all have in common is that they have the, on top here, they've got the Norfolk Southern tooling right here with, I think that's a GPS device on top. I don't know the type of device that's on top of the cab there, but that's different from the Union Pacific models, which is accurate, and it's accurate to the Norfolk Southern versions. The brake wheel is also a different shape as well, which is accurate to the Norfolk Southern Heritage units, the ST70 ACEs, that is. And so yeah, MTH has done a great job with this locomotive. It does have the same sound sets, however, as my other two Heritage units that are Norfolk Southern, the New York Central and Penn Central Heritage units, both of which are ST70 ACEs. It also has the same sound set as the new release of the Western Pacific Heritage unit as well. So no difference in the sounds whatsoever for the engine sounds, horn, bell, even the crew talk is all the same. But still, I think MTH makes some fantastic sounds for their locomotives, and I'm glad though that they got it right definitely this time with the bell, and as well as on their other Norfolk Southern Heritage units, that they got the bell sound correct as well. It has the electronic bell sound. So now I'll start her up. So that concludes the post-Christmas update video that I have for this year. This time showing off the train-related things I got for Christmas of 2014. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. I've got plenty more videos coming up on my Tom and E's Train channel for 2015. So take care, and thank you for watching. Bye.